Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I'm Paul Stevens, editor of Short-Term Rentals, and welcome to this Rockstars 5.0 webinar entitled Pitch to Paul, sponsored by Flywire and NoiseAware. This is me, Paul Stevens, the host for today's session. And we're now going to check out this short video from one of our Rockstars series sponsors, NoiseAware, a privacy-safe smart noise monitoring solution for short-term rental property managers and owners.
What do property damages, angry neighbors, and sound ordinance violations have in common? They all begin with a noisy guest at your property. That could have been resolved with NoiseAware. Through quick installation and 24-hour monitoring, NoiseAware is an essential tool that monitors noise levels on your property to help protect your profits and peace of mind. NoiseAware. Rest easy.
Thank you to NoiseAware for their support. In terms of webinar guidelines for today, please keep your sound on mute and your camera off if you're not speaking. I'm being ably assisted by my colleagues Joe, Danny and Floor today. All of the details you can find in the chat, so please do post any questions you have there as well. A recording will also be sent round to everyone after today's session. And one more quick short video from our second Rockstars series sponsor. This is global payments enablement and software company Flywire.
Flywire helps travel businesses reduce costs and improve guest experience when collecting payments. Without Flywire, travel payments can be costly and inefficient, requiring the business to work with multiple vendors like payment processors, merchant banks, and more. The process results in difficult manual reconciliation, high fees on both sides of the transaction, and no dedicated support for payers or merchants. We solve these pain points through our Flywire Advantage, the combination of our next-gen payment platform, our proprietary global payment network, and our travel-specific software backed by our deep industry expertise to improve both sides of the payment equation. Guests pay in their local currency and with their preferred payment method, whether it be credit card, local bank transfer, mobile wallets, or other local payment methods. Flywire leverages our significant scale to ensure travel businesses and guests alike enjoy low fees and competitive exchange rates. Businesses receive the exact amount that they bill in the currency of their choice for both domestic and international payments, all reconciled to the penny. If there are any questions along the way, Flywire's around-the-clock multilingual support and dedicated account managers are there to help. To learn more, visit travel.flywire.com and request a demo today.
So this is our second pitch to Paul, and you can view the recording of our first Dragon's Den Shark Tank style webinar from March 2021 in the chat now. So I'd like to start by bringing our pitching startups just to briefly introduce themselves before we get the main proceedings underway. So Murat, if you could just briefly introduce yourself for now.
Thank you, Paul. My name is Murat Sonmez. This is my second startup. I spend half of my time on data analytics. I am a Silicon Valley nerd, actually. So I am the recipient of US Navy fellowships based on my pioneering work on artificial intelligence. I was one of the first one using the what they called artificial neural networks at the time, but now it is being called machine learning, becoming a cool tool for across multiple platforms now. So then after Silicon Valley, I moved to Bell Labs in New Jersey, worked in Bell Labs quite a long time. Did my first startup on the data analytics on the GSM operators, which is mobile operators, then moved to the more consumer space in the sharing economy, focusing on the sharing economy and solving this safety problem that we are all seeing in the sharing economy. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Murat, and we look forward to hearing about trustd.ai very shortly. Next up, we have Barbara. Please go ahead, Barbara.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Thank you very much for inviting myself and Stability to be part of today's event. Stability, we are a home sharing platform for groups and organizations, colleges and universities. Briefly, I guess to spring off of Murat's comments, my background includes a lot of media. In fact, my first startup was travelchannel.com, and I also launched weather.com's international business a number of years ago. Certainly a lot of water under the bridge since then, and I look forward to sharing what we're up to at Stability in the next hour.
Thank you, Barbara. Next up, we have Justin.
Hey, Paul. Thanks so much. Yes, my name is Justin Haughey, founder and CEO of Storied Collection. Started my career in short-term rentals at Airbnb back in 2010. Saw that to a eventual IPO and have stayed in the space since. Also doing angel investing through my fund, Inkwell Ventures, and excited to present and tell you more about what we're building now.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Justin, and to all of our startups. Next, we're going to go to our distinguished panel of investors and advisors. Chantal, do you want to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, definitely. And thanks so much for having me. I'm Chantal. I'm the VC lead at Certares. We are the largest investor globally in travel, tourism, and hospitality. And to our knowledge, the only kind of sector specialist that's also playing across all stages at this point. So I launched our venture strategy in the fall of last year. I joined the firm at the end of 2019, but initially a bit unlucky with timing of the pandemic. But now we focus primarily on Series A travel and mobility startups, and I'm also an angel investor.
Thank you very much, Chantal. Delighted to have you on board for this session as well. And last but not least, we have Srin.
Hi, everyone. My name is Srin. Once upon a time, I was the founder of a travel startup that was acquired by Airbnb and worked at Airbnb for a number of years, leading a product and operations team. And also, I moved out to San Francisco for that experience. So I'm based in London. These days, I wear two hats, one as an investor, one as founder again. As an investor, so I've been doing angel investing for about just under sort of between 2 and 3 years. I've done around 40 or so sort of early stage checks, real broad spectrum of startups across a multitude of different industries, and often working with founders at the very earliest stage. Or also founders that I've got to know through various like incubator, accelerator programs that I work with. The other hat, which takes up like 99.9% of my time, or even more, is as co-founder of a new startup called Listify. It is an AI that helps property managers write creative copy for their listings, and so that's just something sort of new I've been working on the last few months, and yeah, enjoying having a second go at it.
Thank you very much, Srin. Welcome to all of our speakers for today. So I'm just going to explain just how this session is going to work. It's a little bit different from our usual format. So we're going to turn our attentions to each startup one by one, starting with Murat from trustd.ai, giving them time for a 5-6 minute pitch before I and the panel of investors and advisors follow up with some questions and some feedback for all of our startups. The investors, I should clarify, are under no obligation to invest today, but the investors and advisors on today's session, as well as anyone in the audience, is also willing to contact our speakers and pursue any opportunities that could be of interest after. So I do encourage you to reach out. Their contact details will also be provided during the chat throughout. So Murat, would you like to take it away with your pitch first?
Thank you, will do. Let me get my screen up. Am I sharing my screen now? Or?
Yes, please do.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. Thank you, Paul, again. Can just arrange my screen here. All right. 4 to 4 million Americans traveled before the pandemic, leaving $35 billion revenue in US economy. We all know that the size of the short-term rental in US and EU exceeds $100 billion. It's a big, huge market. Despite all the preventive measures taken by the operators and external solutions, the bad behaving guest problem, or the what we call unruly guest problem, cannot be stopped. It is, on the contrary, growing in a faster rate than the market itself. So what is the problem here? Well, problem is twofold. First problem is that the operators don't share the guest data with each other. Well, they don't have to. We cannot blame this for them. But the second most important problem is that the existing solutions focusing on the safety, they are not focusing on the right data and the right population. Background screening, guest screening, or background checks does not simply work. We all know that the criminals are going nowhere. Even they use fake IDs. So there's no point of focusing on those data. And then 99.9% of the problems caused by the legitimate good guests. So how do you solve this problem? Well, when a guest makes a reservation, he or she leaves what we call behavioral footprint that they don't talk to each other. So being as an innovator of the year in 2021 as a finalist, we formed Trusted to connect those multiple systems to bring the behavioral data, process this through our proprietary artificial intelligence technology, and deliver back the result in real time to property managers and hosts so that they know who's coming to the property, so that everybody on our platform can trust everybody else. This is platform independent, global, universal, what we call trust metric based on behavioral footprint. See, behavior is dynamic. It is driven by the trust, is driven by the behavior. Today, I trust you. Tomorrow, I can lose my trust based on some behavior. This is the exact root cause of the problem. And this is where we are focusing on to solve the problem. We are integral part of booking ecosystem. We have automated API to connect the PMS, payment processors, CRM, and OTAs. For those who do not run their own PMS, we have self-serve API for small and mid-sized property managers for them to manually check their guests. It is friction-free, seamless integration that we are part of booking ecosystem. Okay, where we are going with this? See, most likely the guest in your home is using Uber, Lyft, or other verticals of the sharing economy. Let me emphasize here for a moment. That means we have a mechanism to bring data to short-term rental from other verticals of the sharing economy, from Uber, Lyft, through the consumers. Consumers will contribute to their behavioral data so that we are giving you a more robust behavioral trust metric across multiple platforms. We are very well positioned to be at the center of a global, universal, platform independent, GDPR compliant, privacy compliant behavioral data, behavioral metric for across globe and for all the verticals of the sharing economy. Team has been there and done this before. As I said, I spent half of my time on the data analytics. Our CTO is currently machine learning manager at Google, and he's co-founder of our company. Our executive team has done a successful startups before. Phil Kennard, everybody knows Phil. He's a very successful entrepreneur, and he's our co-founding. He's our founding advisor. I am Dr. Murat Sonmez. Thank you very much. I am ready for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Murat. Before I go on,
sharing my screen. Should I stop sharing my screen?
You're welcome to take it off shared screen. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Thank you very much for that, Murat. And before I pass over to Chantal and to Srin for their thoughts and feedback, I just wanted to check on, what actually made you want to launch trustd.ai at this time, and what do you see as being unique about your offering particularly?
Thank you. I've launched Trusted after running some my Airbnb operations here in Poconos in USA. We've learned a lot from operation, and basically, as we said, that you do your own screening. I read the reviews, but I also do my own work, doing manual searching about person and phone number, thing like that. But the problem is this, as I said, the problem was being caused by the behavior of the guests. Basically, they are all good guys, all legitimate, all passed by all verified. They might be some executive from some companies, but this cannot prevent the problem being happen. So we focus on what we call behavioral data of the guest, not the. We are shifting attention from the person itself to the behavior, because a good person can have a bad behavior temporarily. What's unique about our solution is that the solution looks at the pattern in the behavior. It doesn't make a decision based on one incident, two incidents. There must be a pattern, constant and consistent pattern across multiple platforms that we are identifying. So this is important. If you are having a bad day, smashing a window in an Airbnb house, that will not affect your basically, but if you repeat that, across here and there, that is the unique solution that we are bringing to the entire sector.
Thank you very much. I'll go to Chantal first, because Chantal, Certares, one of the big players in the market at the moment. You invest in travel and tourism and hospitality, all sorts of things from hotels to tiny homes, airlines. What were your thoughts on Murat's pitch there?
Well, I definitely think it's a great problem that you're solving, and we spend a lot of time kind of looking across vacation rentals, alternative accommodation, and like you say, there's of course a lot of bad, quote unquote, bad behavior that we see. That's a huge challenge for hosts and property owners across the board. I thought that the way you stated the problem statement was great, opening with that kind of problem solution. That's what we like to see. So it's clear initially right away what we're talking about. Also emphasizing the TAM, and that whether you call it short stays or alternative accommodations, however you phrase it, that's a large and growing market. I think you could possibly have doubled down on that and how it's growing in some of the nuances. I think the first image is a little bit scary in terms of on the slide. I see what you're doing there, but I think for me, I feel like leading with fear, maybe tweaking that a bit, and then I would define what kind of bad behavior means, because although you did a great job, highlighting that this is a problem, walk through, paint a picture, tell me a story of, owner of a vacation home that comes in and, lampshades are upside down and there's, stuff on the walls or whatever it is, kind of, give me that image, and that will resonate with me through the pitch. And then I think it's very important to kind of highlight the business model and the revenue opportunities. So having a bit more on go-to-market. I know you had limited time, but I think that's important for investors. And then I had a question in terms of how what's the threshold to make me kind of good or bad, right? Because you mentioned it's based on a pattern of behavior. But is there kind of a certain amount of red flags, and how do you create consistency across platforms that, you know, an Uber is not the same as Airbnb, but like you point out, there are certain behaviors that, you know, could be a cause for concern.
Very good point. Thank you very much. It's all be very, very legitimate, very helpful points. We'll be considering those. Again, you know, time pressure is sort of made me too. Okay.
Fantastic. And Srin, from what Chantal's described there, it seems like trustd.ai is really filling a gap within the market right now. Is that something that you've seen from the pitch? Any thoughts to add on that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think a few things, and then taking some of Chantal's points further, like I'd firstly sort of reiterate, I definitely see the kind of the need for better tools to help two participants on a marketplace trust one another. I mean, allowing buyer and seller to trust each other is sort of the core the core sort of value, I think, of many marketplaces, and how they validate that trust is often the kind of the edge which that marketplace has. So, but I think in terms of sort of this pitch, would be a couple of points I would take further from sort of what Chantal mentioned. I think firstly, I think just trying to articulate maybe in a bit more detail and understanding, like in terms of how the solution works. So like I have a vague idea that, you know, you are going to help sort of de-risk a guest booking, but I think maybe taking the viewer of the deck through like a bit of a user journey. So like, you know, property manager X gets a booking, they then get all of this sort of information or this risk. Like I'm still not quite understanding what exactly sort of the product is. And so I think a little bit more clarity on that, I think would be valuable. The second suggestion that I have is also like, there is sort of problem solution, but also how do I know this solution actually works? So maybe you could have some sort of side-by-side comparison and like the average industry kind of, I don't know, stay going wrong is X amount. However, customers who have trusted have seen the numbers of stays going wrong decreased by X amount, and really validating that your solution is making the difference. And I think finally, again, appreciate time constraints, but maybe also like if you are to raise like A, sort of how much, and B, sort of what are the next milestones for kind of the next year to 18 months as the business moves forward.
Right. Thank you very much, Srin. This is a very good point. Again, you know, we have backup slides, but I'll just
and one actually final one again, and I think this is going to be an issue that will come up more and more in the VC world. It's just getting more firmer about the privacy aspects of it. Like it is, there is a tailwind on, you know, making sure that products do respect various privacy laws, or you're not kind of impeding certain marginalized communities more so than already, and just making sure that there isn't that kind of bias in the product that actually makes a marketplace unfair.
Right.
All get very good points there, and I know you know, we've managed to touch a little bit on the guest screening aspects as well, Murat. We've reported on short-term rentals multiple times about what companies are doing to stop you know, damage in properties, parties, etc. Why do you think you need this investment, or why are you looking, and what do you plan to do with it?
Basically, we have very good traction from the market. Property managers all over the world are contacting us through our webpage, asking us how to use their solution. We need funding to boost up our engineering team. We cannot simply keep up with the demand right now because we have limited staff. This is our first round. We are first round raising. We bootstrapped so far. The founders put their own money into the company, but it came to the point where bootstrapping is not enough, and we need external funding because we cannot simply keep up with the inquiries coming through our webpage without any active sales, without any active marketing. People just, I mean, the property managers are just writing us through our webpage. We have a web chat. They are contacting to us. So money we will be raising 70% will be spent on the boosting up the technical team. Remaining will be spent on the marketing and sales efforts.
Like add that to the deck. Like, if you simply cannot cope with demand, like that is a value that I think potential investors would be very eager to hear.
We have, I don't want to name the company names, but we have 6 companies right now. We queued them. We are doing first 3, and they're all in different categories. We have partners in insurance sector. We have partners in big enterprise PMS, and we have partners in the mid-size enterprise, mid-size PMS. Those are a very good representation of the entire market. So these are the first. Then we're going to go to the next phase.
I would definitely add a slide in on that. So yeah, revenue traction, kind of number of customers, show kind of where it's going, and the different verticals. I think just highlight a larger revenue opportunity. So
right,
showcase that.
Right.
Oh, thank you very much, Murat, and some very encouraging comments there from our advisors. So thank you again to Murat for that. We're going to move on to our second startup, and we've got Barbara tuning in from Ontario. Is it Barbara today? Yeah, take it away. Have you got? Yeah, here we go.
Okay, you can hear me, you can see me.
We can hear you and we can see you.
Excellent. Well, thank you for allowing Stability to be part of today's events. Thank you very much to the investors who are providing initial feedback, and hello to those of you who are tuning in either live or in the recorded version. So Stability, we are the home sharing and short-term rental platform serving groups and organizations and their communities. And just to kind of give the sort of the origin story, I was listening to a podcast with some fellows from a larger home sharing platform. And I thought, you know what, I think they're missing it, which was of course very presumptuous of me because I think they were worth about 32 billion at that point. But my idea was there's a world of people out there who aren't necessarily going to be interested in sharing their space, their vacation property, whatever it might be, with a stranger. And at the other side of that is they may be hesitant about staying with someone who is unfamiliar to them. So what Stability is, and thank goodness the play on words name was available, is basically connecting people who share interests and supporting groups and organizations through their stays. Now, there's a lot more backstory that I'd be delighted to share at another time, but that's kind of the top level explanation. Let's bring people together who share interests, remove the barrier to participation that accommodation might represent. And through the pandemic, we have kind of evolved into a getaways for good piece where property managers are able to list their space. And when somebody stays with them, a percentage goes back to the group or organization that the guest supports. I'm a little bit ahead of myself. So as we say, staying alike and getaways for good. So, whoops, wrong keyboard. Here we go. Is that going to work? Where's the button? Oh, that's way ahead. Okay, so far I'm not doing so well. What?
I think
Sorry,
it's
guys.
just the
back.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so the problem, groups and organizations are looking for ways to increase engagement within the people that are part of their community. And certainly coming out of the pandemic, they're looking for new ways to generate revenue. And occasionally these organizations have big events where accommodation can be a bit of a crunch. Similarly to other marketplaces, certainly hosts are looking to make a little money, and in our case, give back to their communities. And also guests are looking to save a little money as well as support their communities. So as we all know, this is a massive market. All of you are familiar with the market. What we have done is kind of drill down and say, within that total addressable market, what might a niche like Stability represent? So thankfully, there's that public information that Airbnb provided for the total available market, serviceable market. And what we're saying is that there's an opportunity for us through connecting with these communities to capture an $18 billion market. Now, we are the solution. We hear from the organizations we're already working with, and in many cases, increasing engagement is their #1 priority. So if you think of an alumni organization, someone who's much more engaged with their alumni group is more likely to write that check when they receive that, donation request on a quarterly basis. So we provide revenue, we provide revenue opportunity. And of course, one of the really interesting things to this audience is we represent a way to bring new inventory into the marketplace. All those folks that would never ever list their extra space, be it their personal vacation property or the spare room in their home with another platform, might be more inclined to welcome, that runner would welcome a runner, that alumni might welcome that recent graduate who's interviewing for a job in their market. So we're looking to leverage those relationships in ways that other platforms cannot. So our current affiliates, past and present, have been some pretty major events, some organizations on the alumni side, a couple of universities. We are working with folks in the music industry, and we've got an upcoming world championship. So we're looking at a number of verticals: sports, music, service groups, and community organizations. You think of Rotary or the Lions Clubs globally, and then really drilling down. A lot of my efforts in the last year and a bit have been developing relationships within U.S. alumni organizations. So as I've said, we are different. We fit in that corner of the world where an affiliation is very important, but also that we're part of these communities. So again, just to kind of place us in the ecosystem of short-term rentals. Our business model, of course, we make money from booking fees. Our hosts are able to list their property and receive 100% of their booking fee. So our service fees are charged to the guest currently. We also have some subscription revenue for the groups and organizations that use the platform. And then finally, we have advertising on the website, and certainly over time, as we grow and better understand who that runner is and when they're traveling for a marathon, something like Ottawa Marathon is one of our partners. There's opportunity to be able to provide that advertising specifically to that user as we grow. And my background is in media as well as interactive, and I know how to put the pedal down on that one. My background, as I mentioned earlier, I was part of the design team for travelchannel.com. I launched weather.com's international business. I've been part of a number of accelerator programs. My team is in the US and Canada, and our advisors are a very storied group representing people from the sports communities, sports interactivity, a few of our accelerator programs, and certainly the travel industry and advertising industries. So what are we going to do with the money? We are doing a current raise. We are in our pre-seed round and looking to have term sheets in hand within the next 20 days, speaking with a few people now, and look forward to expanding those conversations. We'll be putting that money toward customer acquisition. We'll be putting it toward product development, as well as just sort of some operational things on the accounting and legal and licensing side that any startup would face. I know I'm tight for time. I've got lots more to tell you, but the bottom line is that we believe in shared interests and shared roof in giving back to community. And that is a snapshot of stability. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Barbara. Very polished presentation there. I've got to say, I'm really interested with this business model and talking with groups and with communities, with organizations. How exactly do you secure these affiliates for your organization?
Well, we have an incredible number of lists, and I'm part of some sports tourism organizations. As I said, we are very much focused on working with alumni associations in the US. One of the things that I've done over the last 2 years, of course, remotely, is develop relationships with an organization called CAMP, which is the, and actually, I think I have it. I'm going to stop change screens here if I can. So essentially what it is the alumni marketing people. And that is an extensive group again, focused on the US market that really bring new products and services to their alumni groups. They become our market channel partners. Any one of these organizations we work with, because they have existing communities and existing communications channels, we tap into that. We offer them a menu of services. So their affiliate deals depend on which sort of the menu of services that they work with for us, and we just kind of ride those communication methods to get the word out to their community.
Fantastic, thank you, Barbara. Chantal, what did you make of that presentation, and what was your feedback?
Thanks, Barbara. Great presentation, and definitely think you're highlighting a challenge that there might be some uneasy hosts out there that are interested in engaging with communities that they're already in, but maybe not that active in, like being an alum or a sports fanatic or a runner, like you mentioned. So I thought the introduction piece of that was really great. We did get a little bit sidetracked, kind of halfway into the intro, but you caught yourself and went right back on track. So I thought that was great. Like to see a problem statement. You were very clear about TAM, SAM, SOM, which is, really important to being able to understand what the actual serviceable market is. I liked that you had a competition slide, kind of showing how you're positioning yourself differently than other players in the short-term rental space. Great to break down the business model, although I suspect there was a timing issue, but it was a bit unclear kind of how this is working. Are you rolling all these revenue streams out all at once, or are you taking a bit of a phased approach? Also curious specifically on the subscription revenue piece, how that works. I thought your slide on capital raise and use of funds was great. And I think one thing that's going to be important to highlight is why Airbnb can't do this, especially as they very recently came out with their announcement on categories, which kind of is approaching that indicator of it's a bit more property type, but they're starting to think about specific interests of travelers and consumers. So that would be one piece. I think we really need to highlight how you're going to attract the hosts. Are they on Airbnb already? Have they never rented out a property? Are you reaching them through the alumni organizations? So a bit more clarity on that, and also is there some higher level of interaction versus me just renting, an Airbnb, for example? And then, yeah, I think your explanation to Paul's question on how you're kind of attracting the organizations was great. So I would definitely want to fold that a little bit into the pitch. But yeah, great overall. But yeah, those are my thoughts.
Thank you, Chantal. Anything that you'd like to respond to, Barbara, as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, I find it affirming when other groups, other platforms that are out there begin to look like ours. One of the wonderful things that we have is this word exclusive in our contracts. So when I'm working with a group or organization, we're pretty clear about that you're playing in our sandbox. Yes, there are some barriers to entry, and I think those relationships that we've been developing give us a bit of a head start in, as one of the investors that I've been speaking with did call us the early entrant in this space, and that certainly has value. So you have very good questions, and I don't want to take everybody's time. I could get into the weeds really quickly on all of these, so I do appreciate the feedback.
Not at all. Thank you, Barbara. And Srin, it's clear Barbara's identified a really addressable market right now. $18 billion was quoted within that. would you see this sort of opportunity as a viable investment, Srin?
So it's interesting you bring up that slide. So one like key piece of feedback I'd say is don't call what you're doing a niche. Like I think actually this is potentially, I don't think this is a niche. Like you are effectively offering kind of a white labeled solution for large communities to build their own travel marketplace. And some of those communities could be absolutely enormous, right? So I think don't start this off calling it a niche. Like I don't think it is. And I think like on that, I think that will also some of the points Chantal raised about like, I think you really need to front load why you are different from like the other travel marketplaces there. So like when Paul shared the link and I had a quick look on the website, I was thinking, oh, you know, it's another travel marketplace. But actually, no, like hearing you now and realizing, no, this is really different. You're allowing people within a particular shared interest group or community to stay with other people. And like, I guess by booking somewhere under the umbrella of that group, that is a strong trust signal. And so I think you've really got to like front load why you're different and how this is not just another Airbnb or another booking.com, albeit with, you know, some tick boxes. No, it's not that. You're allowing organizations to build their own travel marketplaces. And so I think front load that differentiation, I think would be my advice. And I think on that point of market, I think, again, it's a bit of an undersell in terms of it being, you know, alumni groups or other organizations. Like the definition of community is disaggregating and becoming much larger. So I think of, you know, some younger relatives of mine absolutely adore certain YouTube influencers or like other people with very large followings. And I think that definition of community is now becoming much larger. Like, I don't know, could an Instagram or a YouTube influencer run like one of these like stability marketplaces for all of their members? I don't know. I'm just spitballing ideas out aloud, but I think there are other reasons why this does not have to be a niche marketplace, and I don't think it is.
I very much appreciate that you get it, which is wonderful. And absolutely, we're looking at all, you know, what does the community represent, especially coming into the pandemic. It's even more important to people. And certainly there's a lot of social studies around that, those philosophies. So thank you.
And I totally get it. So like, I mean, I'm a wheelchair user, and like there's a big kind of online kind of community around people kind of, who've got adapted homes, sharing their place with one another. So I think, you know, there's so many of these niche groups around. And so I definitely think there is a larger audience out there that I think that getting the story right will help you communicate that. And I think you want investors to get really excited from the get-go that this isn't an Airbnb clone. No, this is a business that is trying to create like a brand new kind of category vertical of sort of white label travel marketplaces.
And key in what you've just described is that, and I just want to emphasize this, is that we always give back. So there is, even if somebody does book a property and they don't select a group or organization that they support, we still take a piece of that transaction and put it in what we call the charity pot. So there's always a give back. Thank
you very much, Barbara, and looking forward to seeing the future of stability. Hopefully we'll be hearing a lot more about you after the pre-seed investment rounds and potentially more to come. So another fantastic presentation there. And we have Justin, please, from now called Storied Collections. So Justin, take away your presentation.
Sure thing. Thanks so much, Paul. Sharing now.
There we go.
I appreciate you organizing this. Thanks to everyone joining online, as well as our esteemed judges. My name is Justin, and I'm excited to tell you about Storied, the hotel collection for the finest castles, chateaus, and estates across Europe, launching this fall. So like so many startups, the idea started with a personal problem. Last year, while my fiance and I were beginning our London wedding planning, we had difficulty finding a space for our reception. So we knew we wanted something special. I wanted to just insert dates and credit card details, but the actual steps required proved quite arduous. So not only was the search process difficult, but communications with the property and reserving the dates were equally trying. So I mentioned these issues with my longtime friend in the STR space, Michael Golden, the most handsome man in short-term rentals. And he told me about experiencing some similar issues he had looking with his wife for a post-pandemic getaway to Ireland. They knew they wanted to stay in a castle and live like royalty, but finding the perfect place was not easy. After much back and forth, they finally confirmed to stay at the iconic Ashford Castle, a property steeped in history dating back to the 1200s, one time owned by the Guinness family, and there they made memories that will last a lifetime. There was clearly a gap in the market, and with this, we had our light bulb moment. So combining my experience growing the super brand at Airbnb, Michael's adept operational excellence, and bringing in our third founding team member, Rob Patterson, the former CEO of Best Western Great Britain, we intended to solve it. So while this idea was originally sprouted from personal experiences, we realized that these richly historic properties also had a problem using outdated technology to market their accommodations while also getting lost amongst a sea of other options on the large OTAs. And you can see that here in the screenshot from a search on Expedia for Kong, Ireland. Ashford Castle is one of the premier castle hotels in the world, yet it appears in search results under a small room with a grandma quilt and an old Irish horse stable. We knew that there had to be a better way. So one of the first questions we received in our early conversations was, what's the TAM, right? The luxury tourism market is massive at over 15 billion, but there's only so many castles in the world. So as we continue our research in depth, we realized that the addressable market was actually quite large. We've calculated somewhere between 1,500 to 2,000 castle hotels across Europe, but over 10,000 country house and manor hotels in the UK alone. So as we're gearing up for our official launch this fall, we have begun our focus on adding supplies and confirmed the following initial members to our collection. This includes Fenton Tower and Gilmerton House near Edinburgh, Scotland, and the Taunton Castle, a family-owned hotel in Somerset, UK, as well as the previously mentioned Ashford in Ireland. So these represent both high-end and accessible luxury, all with rich historical relevance, available for nightly stays as well as exclusive use events. So we're rounding out our stellar founding team with world-class advisors and investors from the travel and hospitality space. Peter Cole, former CEO at Design Hotels, which has been a great comp for us as they started with a collection of 10 hotels, collecting a booking revenue from their members in '93, eventually moving to a soft brand, collecting a percentage of overall revenue from the hotels in their collection, and then acquired by Starwood Marriott in 2011. We also have Michael Ross, CEO of Bidroom, who's assisting on the tech side. Tyler Carrico, he's formerly at Dyer Ventures, an investor in NoiseAware, and now he's launching his own new travel-focused VC at Derive. We also have Venetia Prostavic, a longtime friend and former colleague at Airbnb, who's providing help with the marketing and branding, and David Pontius, an industry stalwart, most recently COO at Blue Green Vacations, and also holding former leadership roles at Wyndham, Hilton, and RCI. We are still early, but the insights and support we have received from this group has been nothing short of outstanding. And fundraising has been going well. So we initially opened a small pre-seed round for friends and family with a goal of 250,000. This was quickly oversubscribed, and we doubled the goal to 500,000. So as of now, we have roughly 400K currently committed, and we are looking to fill the remainder with commitments from strategic angels in travel and hospitality. We're forecasting a runway of around 12 to 18 months with zero revenue coming in, and we're planning to use these funds for growth operations, marketing, and technical hires as we're approaching our official launch this fall. So please reach out to myself or Michael directly if you are interested in participating. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much for that very detailed presentation, Justin. And you mentioned there your experience with Airbnb in the past. I believe you're the lucky 13th, is it, employee there? And I'm really interested by the slogan that I saw previously on the website about where history creates memories. Is there? Yeah. What was specifically the reason why you decided to go down this route after Airbnb? We have seen sort of these stories about people going on trips or nostalgia trips. Is this something that's fueling that, or?
Yeah, I think, well, Michael is a known history buff, right? And his, through his search was able to find that actually the Fenton Tower dates back to his family lineage, right? Many generations ago. And we realized, kind of going back to that Expedia slide, right, that this was something that ultimately the larger OTAs, they just ultimately weren't telling these stories that these places had. And the history is insane, right? It's incredible that these castles have been built. I was just looking at one that was built in the 700s. They've been bombed by wars. They've been rebuilt, lived by kings and lords and all types of other things too. And they really didn't have a platform that they were able to tell those stories, right? And so that's why the name Storied comes in, because we feel like we're going to be able to really be that conduit for them to kind of, explain, the history that they have and explain that to the consumer side.
Fantastic. I'll get straight on to the people you really want to hear from. So Chantal, what did you make of that presentation?
Yeah, great presentation, and made me want to go stay at a castle. You definitely had a strong opening with kind of the personal anecdote. I love hearing kind of the why you, what inspired you to do this, and great that you have a co-founder that's like-minded from that perspective. I think you could define what a historic property is earlier, as I spent the first part of the presentation thinking it was just castles, and clearly the opportunity is a lot larger than that, which you did highlight on the TAM slide. I thought that it's good to have kind of initial traction. I like the fundraising slide. I would personally suggest maybe avoiding all the detail on the advisors, and we spent a big chunk of the time on that, and didn't really get into your go-to-market and the actual business model. So I would kind of put that at the back. Definitely they are people who bring a lot to the table, but would save that and touch on it lightly, or just have it kind of just further down. Yeah, curious how you're kind of going about attracting these venues, how you are planning to acquire customers like yourself who are looking for that more adventurous experience, and also curious if you are planning something, to include something beyond just the stay at the historic property. So, is it the case that when I book through your platform, I will always get, a 30-minute tour with some, kind of local experience or something of that sort? And then, I think it's important to lastly discuss the competition, and again, especially with Airbnb categories, how you're really differentiating yourself to the traveler as well as the properties themselves.
Yeah, sure. So starting with the kind of, the full trip itinerary, we're definitely looking to build that all in, whether that's, a visit to the whiskey distillery out back, or a lot of these properties are very close to golf courses in Scotland, right, which is the birthplace of golf, and also massive demand channel for us on the consumer side. So we're going to definitely be marketing to those. A lot of what we heard in our initial conversations, which the castle properties and the like are actually very excited to have someone that is focusing on this niche, right? And I know Srin mentioned the word niche, but we actually view the niche as our strength in many ways. And so by marketing to these type of groups and driving this type of demand, especially in the US market, which is one place that they're having a very much of a difficulty finding travelers, we feel like we'll have a lot of success there. Weddings and events, right? We have a large list of luxury travel agents as well as wedding planners that we feel like this would provide a great value to them, solving a problem that, myself, I'm having, right? And I think others would as well.
Fantastic. Srin, would anything there you'd like to extend on?
I mean, I like what Chantal and probably others are thinking. It's like, yeah, where can I book a castle?
StoriedCollection.com. Yeah,
exactly, right. Exactly. So a couple of thoughts. Like, I think, I mean, as Chantal mentioned, like more around sort of product and go to market. I think when sort of someone is trying to build a new business vertical or category by sort of unbundling kind of a bigger player, i.e. Airbnb or Booking. I think it's really important to convey like how you're going to put guardrails on sort of building out this category as an independent business, just so you're not sort of big-footed by sort of the incumbent. So like, you know, Airbnb, yeah, I mean, we saw it, right? There was a great to move into better categorization, but what is it that you guys are doing to kind of to really put the guardrails up? Is it product led? There's going to be a huge amount of rich content around that place, and so, and I'm sure there's a ton of ideas out there, but I think maybe communicating some of those in the deck, so like at least it sort of brings it to life how this as a destination sort of website for people to visit is going to be different. Maybe getting a designer just to like mock up what a story kind of PDP would look like, I think would be one of those things. And I think the second bit is like, it's always the standing start problem. Like when you are building like a new marketplace, like how are sort of, you know, the first 10, 100,000 customers going to come from? And where it's not just a simple, you know, dropping tons on like Google AdWords and whatnot, and how that two-sided marketplace is going to be built from day one. But yeah, like it's sort of, yeah, more detail on go to market, but I think, yeah, like it's a cool concept.
Yeah, no, thank you for the feedback for sure. And I think, you know, because of the sort of niche focus, we can, you know, not necessarily need to dump a ton into Google and sort of kind of own the SEO in that sense is one of our things that we're focusing on. And you mentioned the rich stories, right? And so we're definitely trying to tell those on the site for the consumer, as well as, like I said, be that conduit. And we're doing this is kind of behind the scenes, but we're working on a sort of hack right now where we're actually going to populate a lot of that content onto ancestry.com, right? And hopefully drive a lot of demand sort of organically at a zero cost effectively through that site, because I think that's something that's definitely missing. And if you can connect those dots, I think you definitely have a winner early on.
Thank you very much, Justin. Another fantastic pitch there. And I think we've heard 3 fantastic pitches. I think we can all agree with that. And just before I go to my final slides, I'd like just to turn back to our investors. And Chantal, what are the sort of the main takeaways, or what can you sort of summarize from the 3 pitches there that you've heard?
I mean, I think great presentations all around, and it's very clear that you all have passion for what you're building. I think some of the feedback was probably consistent around needing a bit more clarity around business model and go to market, you know, how you're going to differentiate yourselves from competition and acquire early customers. Those were kind of, for me, the key focus points that I would like to kind of drill into a bit more across the board. But again, know that we're time constrained, and, you know, I think you're in a really exciting part of the journey. You know, all kind of in the process of either recently launching or soon to launch, and would just advise you to enjoy the ride, but don't be afraid to ask for help. And, you know, nothing goes according to plan, but you know, and what's more rewarding than building something from the ground up?
Thank you, Chantal. And same question, Srin, as well.
Yeah, no, first of all, like, well done everyone for pitching. Like, I know these are never easy to do, A, remotely, and B, in such a short time frame. So no, thanks everyone for sharing more about what you're doing. And again, just to echo what others have said, I think it is like, I think it's a great time to be building travel businesses. And I think there is a change in how travel is, and I think there's a ton of new opportunities. And yeah, as has been mentioned, it'll be a roller coaster, but yes, buckle up and enjoy the ride, right? And the people like us are around to help in any way we can.
Thank you very much, Srin. A big thank you to both of our investors and advisors, and to our 3 startups. So to for Barbara, Murat, Justin, Srin, Chantal, fantastic job today. And I should say, if there are any investors tuning in today as well who'd like to contact our speakers, we've provided everyone's LinkedIn details in the chat for you. If the speakers themselves would also like to provide any extra contact details within there that we haven't done so far, then please do. And please do follow up with our speakers when it's convenient for you. So I've just got a couple of slides, and forgive me that we're finishing 1 or 2 minutes late, but we've just got a couple of slides to run through. So we're coming up to our Urban Living Festival, which is on the 6th and 7th of July 2022, so only a few weeks away. And that's a big event coming up in Canary Wharf at East Winter Garden, which is combining lots of various hospitality and real estate asset classes. So if you're in London on those dates, I'd highly recommend attending, and please do follow up if you've got any questions. So we're back in 2 weeks' time on Tuesday, the 21st of June, for our next short-term rentals Rockstars webinar, which is called Can Traditional Leisure Businesses Crack the Business Travel Segment? A very apt issue right now. Hope you can join us then by signing in to the session in the chat or on the QR code on the screen. For sponsorship opportunities across our webinars, please do contact my colleague Katie. Her details are on the screen for you now. Big thank you again to Flywire and to NoiseAware for sponsoring our Rockstars series and session. Really appreciate your support. We're going to keep the session open just for another 2 minutes as well, in case there are any details that you want to jot down from our speakers, anything that you've seen today. And feel free to contact us via our various channels. Again, big thank you again to all of my speakers. All that's left for me to say is thank you everyone for attending. To our 5 speakers today, thank you very much for your time, and we'll see you all again very soon. Thank you very much, everyone.